small steps into a brand new day. And in all of that ordinary movement, there's something kind of extraordinary. A moment worth noticing, a spark you feel before you even name it. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's small, but kindness shows up right on time. And every morning we choose to show up with you so we can look for that spark together.
Good morning. I'm Matt Roof, the Uncommon Kindness Guy, and this is Kindness Rising. Let's rise together.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kindness Rising, your morning dose of hope, humanity, and heart. And this week we are talking about trust. On Monday, we established that trust is a foundation. Yesterday, we defined it correctly because we're talking about vulnerability-based trust rather than predictive trust. And today, we're going to look at what that trust can unlock. Conflict, not destructive conflict, but healthy conflict. Because according to this right here, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, when teams lack trust, they fear conflict. They substitute debate for artificial harmony, and artificial harmony is expensive.
This is Kindness Rising.
All right. Welcome into Kindness Rising. I come here every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, to get you up with a little hope, humanity, and heart, to rise above the noise of the day and to have a little fun together, talking about positivity, talking about kindness, introducing ourselves and having discussion in our community about important topics. Today is, for this week, I guess, we're talking about trust again, and we are talking about using this as our primary interest. The 5 dysfunctions of a team, Patrick Lencioni, at this point a classic business text. It's been around since 2002. I was first introduced to it about 10 years later, and here we are, 2026. Yes, high fives, absolutely, Mike Sullivan. 2026, still talking about the 5 dysfunctions of the team, because how many of you out there live in dysfunction, live in dysfunctional teams that can't seem to get it together, where trust doesn't exist as your foundation? So many. I know we have all lived it. I have lived it. You have lived it. And what I want to talk about today is the way building that kind of trust, the kind of trust where we can be vulnerable and can admit when we have needs, and we can ask our team for help, and we can say, I don't know, and all those things that make us feel safe, be able to feel safe, voicing our perspectives. That's what we're talking about here. And what happens when conflict, or when trust doesn't exist, is there is no healthy conflict, because healthy conflict is unfiltered, respectful debate about ideas. It's not a tax on identity, political maneuvering, passive aggressive silence. Does any of this sound familiar to you in your teams? Passive aggressiveness, political maneuvering, self-promotion to an unhealthy level. Those are the things that exist when trust does not exist in your group. Healthy conflict says, I disagree with that idea, not I disagree with you. It sounds like things like, help me understand. I think I see this differently. What are we missing? It's energetic, it's engaged, it's focused on your mission. And here's the key. Healthy conflict only works when trust is strong enough to separate ideas from the ego. We have to be able in our teams to give up a little bit of our ego to move the team forward. And when teams avoid conflict, something really subtle starts to happen. It's this first clues that there's problems within your team. meetings, they start to feel polite, not productive. People nod in the room and then go off into the hallway or into their private offices and go off on what's going on. Questions stay unasked. Concerns stay softened, and energy shifts from solving the problem to protecting the self and the relationship. Right? Decisions get made, but buy-in, that doesn't exist. And without real debate, commitment is shallow. We're going to talk about here in just a second one of the most dramatic examples of this and what happens when healthy conflict doesn't exist in our work teams, right? Without real debate, remember, commitment is shallow. Without commitment, accountability weakens. And without accountability, execution slows. At first, it might seem harmless, just a little tension avoided. Okay, scared it out of there. We get to go to lunch without a fight, whatever the case may be. Just a little pushback, soften, a little discomfort. This doesn't feel right, but I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go because, for whatever reason, because if I don't let it go, I don't feel safe, basically. But over time, that silence, it compounds. I think we've all been in rooms. I know I have over the years in teams where the meeting is just predictable and there's just silence. And yeah, and okay, and oh, this is another meeting that could have been an email or whatever the case may be. But what happens then is your blind spots start to widen, assumptions go unchallenged, and the most dangerous phrase in any organization begins to be heard and echoed. Seems like everybody agrees. I mean, we want to get to agreement. We want to get to common understanding, or at least acceptance and willingness to buy in and move forward, even if we don't accept. But we need to get to that point. It doesn't just come because we say, it's just easier to just agree. Because when no one debates openly, then no one commits deeply. Does that make sense? When no one debates openly, no one commits deeply. And when no one feels safe challenging a decision, mistakes slip through. Yesterday I talked about the Swiss cheese. Layers of Swiss cheese. Oh, got through that hole. Oh, found another hole. Oh, found another hole. The next thing you know, that mistake slips through. That concept came from a classic text, I guess, and in real experience that I have experienced in terms of, particularly in healthcare. But to err is human, which was the essential work in healthcare, talking about the cost of medical errors and the Swiss cheese model. It may get through one hole, then it finds its way through another hole, and next thing you know, the problem has exacerbated and major consequences happen. What happens when those mistakes slip through? Each layer it slips through, it gets more expensive, it's more time consuming, it's more risk until it's absolutely catastrophic. And that's what we're going to talk about next, is an absolute catastrophe that happened because of this idea. Who's out there in the comments? Say hello. Tell me where you're coming from. I want to hear from you. Is this resonating with you? The 5 dysfunctions of the team? The ideas around groupthink, whether it's in your work group, whether it's in your home, a team that you participate in, at church, in the community, wherever it may be that you are, I promise these things are true. They are human. Absolutely. All right. Welcome again to Kindness Rising. I'm Matt Roof, and I come here every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, to help you get up with hopefully some intriguing thoughts, ideas, remembering some of the stories of our lives that fit these concepts and lessons that we can learn, but also to build community, to rise above the noise of the day. We can talk about news, and there's lots of time to get that information, out there, but this is the time between 7:30 and 8 a.m. when we wake up together on the Mornings in the Lab Network. Today is Wednesday. It's the big day on Mornings in the Lab Network because I'm starting here at 7:30. At 8 a.m., you're going to catch Mornings in the Lab with Keith, John, and friends, where they're going to bring their special recipe of chaos and interest and getting up without hitting the snooze button. And then at 8:30, Cheryl Raphael Whitaker. It starts with joy. It starts with joy, and today she's going to be talking about those little voices inside the head that tell you you're not enough. But guess what? You are, and you have value to bring. Mike Sullivan, thank you so much. I just appreciate that you are here every day. Keep getting involved in the chat. Lead this group. If you're out there, meet Mike Sullivan, future life coach. The future is now, Sully. The future is now. Do it. Take the experience that you have been building over your life and over the years and bring it to people. People need that. People need to know your story. They need to know how your experience, your expertise can help them. All right. Yep, Mike. Well, guess what? If you become a life coach, you're going to be dealing with people who have to deal with teams, and I'm sure you've been on teams before. I know we all have, absolutely. And as you grow, you might build a team for sure. All right. So I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, and then we're going to talk about the moment in history. Oh, wait, I do want to do something else first. It's my show. I can do whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do. I'm kidding. I want to show this. I saw this great graphic, I guess, sketch that shows this idea. Has anybody ever heard of the term groupthink? Groupthink is what happens when we stop having conflict and we start just accepting and agreeing with what is going on in the room. That's the layout I want. But I really like this. If you just take a look at it real quick while I'm going through this next little bit, the idea that someone stands up and says, okay, we all agree. And the thought bubbles in our head are going, do I agree? I don't agree. But you know what? Yes, I guess I agree. I agree. Yeah. Do I really agree? I don't know. Is it safe for me to question this? All those things. And then it ends up leading to potentially disastrous decisions. And I want to talk about a disastrous situation. I don't mean to do it with a smile, but the only reason I smile is because of the lesson that I've learned from it and my memories of it being so formative in two ways. Does anybody know what happened on January 28th, 1986? January 28th, 1986. How old were you? Where were you? I know where I was on January 28th, 1986. I was sitting in my English classroom. Mr. Denson, Mom, Mr. Denson. Seventh grade. They wheeled in that big metal cart. Everybody gets excited. Okay, the cart's here. We're going to get to watch a video. We're going to get to see something awesome. This has been built up to be something that we really all have to see. The whole country watching, literally, in the government, the world, encouraging schools to play this live situation. Nobody's jumped in and guessed, but I'm going to tell you the Space Shuttle Challenger. Space Shuttle Challenger was set to launch on January 28th, 1986. This launch was going to be the most special launch in the history of the Challenger and the Space Shuttle program because of a woman named Krista McAuliffe. Does that name ring a bell with anybody? A school teacher who won a chance to go into space. Yep. Sad, the female teacher, and Dan Rather. Yep, Mike, you remember? You were home, huh? I was in Mr. Denson's English class, which I can tell you some funny stories about Mr. Denson's English class, but this one was not a funny story. All right. The nation all together watching that launch, watching possibilities. And then 73 seconds after liftoff, the entire cabin, the entire shuttle, couldn't think of the word for a second, exploded. 7 lives lost, including Krista McAuliffe. This was the first national tragedy that I ever remember in real time, really. Before that, I do remember the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. Slightly before that, as I look back on my national champions, national tragedies that happened, stories in the news that we remember. But this was perhaps one of the most impactful moments in my life, for sure, in terms of, whoa, this world is a dangerous place. Absolutely. And guess what? It was because of groupthink. The analysis after the tragedy, all the investigation, that's what it came down to. It wasn't caused by a lack of expertise. It wasn't caused by lack of intelligence or not having the right people on the team, or it wasn't just dumb luck. It wasn't just dumb looks. Found out that engineers early on in the process had concerns about these things called O-rings. They raised them quietly, but they got pushback. Those concerns didn't fully break through that organizational pressure, schedule pressure, political pressure, reputation pressure. This was the arms race. This was us sending a teacher into space. The problem was there wasn't enough psychological safety for those engineers to dissent. They had fear of the conflict, deference to their hierarchy, and protection of the image of NASA, of the United States, of the world, right? And when that happens, the dissent starts to soften and risks start to increase. This is true groupthink at its core, at its element, right? Sad day. And I do remember about 10 years later. So I was 14 when the Challenger tragedy occurred, and about 10 years later. So I moved down to Washington, D.C. after my undergraduate work. And one of my favorite places in DC to this day, but even back as far as then, and it might sound a little morose, I guess, maybe, but it's Arlington National Cemetery. Have you ever been to Arlington? Arlington, to me, is representative of the American spirit because it represents sacrifice. It represents the challenges, the history, the leadership, the obviously just the immense human impact that made us who we are, made our nation who we are, right? And 10 years later, I had no money, I didn't know, whatever. So one of the things I like to do was take the train down into the city and just walk around the monuments and go into the parks. And sometimes I would go alone, sometimes I would go with friends or whatever. But this happened to be a time when I went alone. I just went alone down to Arlington and walked around, got some exercise on a beautiful day, whatever it was. And I walk up to the shuttle. If you ever have a chance to go to this, there's a memorial for the Space Shuttle Challenger, and I walk up to that memorial. So it's not the biggest, it's not the most known in the cemetery, along with the eternal flame of JFK and the changing of the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and all those things that have become national monuments. But I'm talking about a big enough, but a small monument. And I stood there for a second and I just started sobbing at 24, 25 years old, looking at that and just sobbing, not because of the loss. I didn't have any personal connection to that, but it was the realization, I think, that this didn't have to happen. Why did this happen? I remember asking, how did that happen? Right? It was the silence. It was the group think. The group think. And this is why healthy conflict matters. When teams don't feel safe enough to challenge decisions, when engineers can't push hard enough, when leaders don't invite dissent, mistakes, they slip through that Swiss cheese, man. And sometimes the cost is absolutely horrific. Healthy conflict isn't about ego. It's not about protecting yourself. It's not about just let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, right? And let's get this meeting over with, because what I say isn't gonna matter anyway. What I say is not gonna make a difference, or I don't feel safe to have this conversation. Healthy conflict is about protection. It's about responsibility, and it's what leaders create through, back to the word, trust, vulnerability-based trust, that make it so that tragedies don't happen. As a leader, it is our responsibility to allow the room to feel safe, to make sure people are empowered to say things like, stop, wait, whoa, I don't get it, or this doesn't feel right. Trust-driven teams create space for that voice, because when silence replaces the debate, the consequences compound. That's trust-based vulnerability. And what? You're answering part of the question. I ask questions and then I answer them directly, right, Mom? And we've got Nicole Eisdorfer. If I butchered your name, Nicole, I apologize, but I know you. I watch your stuff out here and in the social world, part of the movement that I'm going to talk about at the end of the show today, that's going to become part of our show. Let's see, what does Nicole have to say? You remember it. You remember it from kindergarten, library worksheet. Okay, you were in kindergarten. I was in 7th grade, so that ages us, Nicole, for sure, right? You can, oh, wow. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to read this because for some reason we're not all seeing each other's comments. Nicole's over on LinkedIn. I can see the outline of the triangle I was drawing in purple crayon. We were all told to look at the screen because takeoff was starting. It's just weird how things stick in your memory with extreme precision. Absolutely. I remember the desk I was sitting in, against the wall, against the chalkboard, to the third desk on the right. I can see it. I can see Mr. Denson. I can see the TV. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mom, Roseanne Roof, you're out there. You're answering. What were the lessons learned? Always the question that follows. I just said what the lessons learned are, Mom. The lessons learned are, as leaders, we cannot allow our rooms, our teams, to not feel safe to dissent, to not ask questions, to not be critical, to not have the healthy conflict that says, I'm not sure about this, to ask the question, to create safe spaces for that to be true. Absolutely. Thank you again, everyone, for coming out here this morning to Kindness Rising. I come here 7:30 a.m. Eastern every day to talk about things like trust, but also, of course, our 6 strings of Kindness Rising. The first one is kindness. Kindness in this context allows disagreement without cruelty, without judgment of that question. Curiosity, that invites exploration without your ego. Self-awareness, another one of our strings, prevents defensiveness. Whoa, why am I? Here's my thing. When someone is dissenting in a group that I'm leading or part of, and I get a weird feeling, a discomfort, that through self-awareness, I have to go, well, I need to listen to that discomfort, not ignore it, not try to push it away. Listen to it. Why? Ask the question, why am I feeling uncomfortable? What is it about this? Growth. Growth embraces friction. Growth understands that there needs to be that conflict and differences of opinions to come to the ultimate conclusion. Of course, trust. Trust is what makes all of this possible, because conflict without trust is absolute chaos. We've also been there. We've also been there, right? We're talking about healthy conflict. Not all conflict is good. Some conflict is good, and we have to have conflict. But not all conflict is good, because conflict without the trust, without that layer of vulnerability and understanding that you're safe, that is absolute chaos. Sometimes it's some people, and I have fallen into this trap, enjoy that. We're not involved in it and watching it happen. But I actually enjoy more watching real conflict, real trust in action, because you need both. You need conflict, because trust without conflict is stagnation, but conflict without trust is chaos. You got to have both. So that's the message for today as we continue our conversation about Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and about the foundation of trust in our teams. And of course, I like to give a challenge, but first I want to see what Sully has to say. Yes, it definitely makes us stronger. Yeah, it made us stronger. The Day After movie. Oh, I remember that too. Absolutely. And Nicole, thanks. I'm glad you're up early, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you for coming here with me on Kindness Rising. I invite you, Nicole. I know we interacted last night with some other folks. I invite you to join me here every day, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, as part of the Weirdo LinkedIn movement. I promised I would tease that. Starting next week, I'm hopeful that some people, there's a movement out there called Weird LinkedIn, Fellowship of the Weird. It's Weird LinkedIn without any of the vowels. For anybody who wants to know, I forgot to add it as a visual. But there is a group of people that includes Nicole, includes myself, and a group of other brilliant, talented, dedicated, kind people out there that are forming a group that's all about human, recognizing the differences in humans and the value that every single human brings. And starting next week, I teased it actually before the new year. I said I was going to be getting weird in 2026. Oh, 5:30 out there, Nicole. Woo. I told you, I said I was going to, and guess what, Nicole? You might think that's great, but guess who's out on the West Coast? You don't see him, but his name is Mike Sullivan, and he comes here every day from San Francisco, 4:30 a.m. Every day he's here. Thank you, Nicole, for putting it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat. That's a great idea for anybody else who's out there. That's the one right there. Anyway, I promised I would bring it. Wednesdays. We're going to have Weird Wednesdays from now on. I'm going to be spotlighting the people from this group. We're talking about people who have connected over their differences, but have brought brilliant ideas to the table. These are the people who tend to be on the margins in our unfortunate corporate lemmings world. Well, we've got our weirdlings out there, and you're going to be hearing more about them. So please join us every Wednesday at 7:30 for Weird Wednesdays, and every day here at Kindness Rising. So here's your challenge for today. Invite one healthy disagreement in your world. Ask, what are we missing? Who sees this differently? And when someone pushes back, don't defend it immediately. Lean in, because healthy conflict is not a threat to unity. It's actually the path to it. That's the show for today. I went over a little bit, but that's okay. Great teams don't avoid friction, they're refined through it. Trust creates safety. Safety creates honesty. We're going to keep going here. Honesty creates clarity, and clarity creates commitment. And commitment ultimately drives our results. Remember that conflict isn't the enemy, silence is. Come on back tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern. I'll be here. I want to see you here. And until then, stay uncommon and stay kind.
What if your mornings could be inspiring and ridiculously fun?
Kindness Rising isn't just a show, it's a full wake-up vibe.
It's freaking fun, people.
Yeah, man, it's got real get-after it energy.
I love it.
Wake up with Kindness Rising.
I help purpose-driven people grow their impact. 5-ingredient recipe to help you build your personal brand. Get out there and take kind action.
If it's live, they'll feel it.
On Kindness Rising, we bring you proven strategies and fresh ideas you can actually use. If you're not failing, you're not trying.
Exactly. Fail fast, rebound faster.
You'll see the bloopers and the genuine connections that make kindness contagious. We sometimes get into a little bit of trouble.
Pretty much my life made the list.
You can trust what you see right here is honest, respectful, and uplifting. Social impact organizations, and we always talk about them. Try kindness. It's way cheaper than therapy. You just made my day.